They said if a man could die without screaming, his soul would fly to Valhalla. But when the Blood Eagle spread its wings, the sky itself turned crimson. The Viking Blood Eagle, the death that touched the sky. Imagine the dawn of the Viking Age, a time etched in frost and fire, where honor was forged in battle and justice was as sharp as a warrior's axe. In this world, there was no greater crime than betrayal. For a warrior to turn his back on his jarl, his kin, or his gods was to invite a fate worse than a mere death. For such a crime, there was only one sentence, a ritual whispered in fear across the windswept fjords of Scandinavia. It was a punishment designed not just to end a life, but to serve as a terrifying spectacle for both men and the divine. The accused, once a proud and fearless Viking, now stood stripped of his honor, his fate sealed by a single verdict. The punishment chosen was the Blood Eagle. It wasn't a swift execution performed in the shadows. It was the most feared and revered form of justice in Norse society, a public ceremony steeped in ancient, terrifying tradition. The name itself conjured an image of grotesque beauty, a promise of agony so profound it blurred the line between the mortal world and the realm of the gods. To be sentenced to the Blood Eagle was to be marked for a death that would be remembered for generations. A story told around crackling fires to warn of the consequences of treachery. The entire village would gather, their faces a mixture of grim duty and morbid fascination, to witness a soul being torn from its earthly vessel. The ritual was performed with a chilling sense of purpose, slow and methodical, every step imbued with symbolic weight. It was seen as a trial witnessed not only by the assembled tribe, but by Odin himself. The condemned was brought to a sacred space, often a stone altar or a designated clearing, and forced to kneel. Silence would fall upon the crowd, a heavy, expectant hush broken only by the whistling wind and the sharp, metallic sound of the executioner's tools being laid out. This was not an act of rage. It was a holy procedure, a dark communion where pain was the offering, and a man's final breath was a message sent directly to the heavens. With the community as his audience and the gods as his judges, the condemned faced his final moments. The executioner, often a figure of high standing, would begin the gruesome work. A long, deep incision was made down the spine, tracing the man's backbone from his shoulders to his lower back. The skin and muscle were then methodically pulled away, exposing the rib cage in a ghastly display of anatomy. One by one, each rib was severed from the spine with an axe or a heavy blade. The bones were then wrenched outwards, pulled and twisted to form a pair of grotesque, bloody appendages that resembled folded wings. The air would grow thick with the scent of iron and the sound of cracking bone, a symphony of brutal finality. Central to this horrific ordeal was the Viking belief in Valhalla, the hallowed hall where Odin gathered the souls of the worthy dead. It was a paradise reserved for warriors who died with courage, and the Blood Eagle was the ultimate test of that courage. The belief was simple, yet unimaginably difficult. If the victim endured the entire ritual without uttering a single scream, without showing any sign of fear or weakness, his soul would be deemed pure and heroic. His silence in the face of unspeakable agony was his final battle, his ticket to an afterlife among the gods. A single cry for mercy, a single shriek of pain, and his soul would be damned, cast into the cold darkness of hell, forever denied the honor he sought in death. This ritual, therefore, was far more than a simple execution. It was a profound act of symbolic meaning. The pain was not just punishment, it was a sacrifice, a purification through suffering. For the condemned, it was a final, desperate chance at redemption. By embracing the agony, he could wash away the stain of his betrayal and reclaim his honor in the eyes of his gods and his people. The act of carving wings into his back symbolized a violent, forced transcendence, transforming a traitor into a vessel for a divine message. His death was not an end, but a transformation, a brutal rebirth into legend. Whether as a hero who ascended to Valhalla, or a coward whose spirit was lost to the void, legends passed down through the sagas claim that as the ritual reached its horrific climax, a supernatural event would occur. After the wings were spread, the executioner would perform the final act, pulling the man's lungs out through the openings in his back and draping them over his shoulders. As his last breath fluttered from the exposed organs, a motion said to resemble the faint beating of wings. The sagas tell of the sky itself turning a deep blood red. This crimson omen was seen as a sign that the gods had witnessed the sacrifice, that the heavens themselves were acknowledging the terrible justice that had been served on earth. The death was no longer just a man's end. It became a cosmic event. Yet, for all its vivid and terrifying detail in the Norse sagas, a stark debate rages among modern historians. Is the Blood Eagle a factual account of Viking justice, or is it a gruesome myth? A piece of literary horror created by later Christian chroniclers to paint the Norse people as savage barbarians. No definitive archaeological evidence, no skeleton bearing the distinct marks of the ritual has ever been found. Some scholars argue it was a misunderstanding of complex Norse poetry, a metaphor for a swift death in battle where a warrior fell forward on his face. Others maintain that given the known brutality of the era, such a ritual, while extreme, was entirely possible. The truth remains buried, caught between ancient poems and the silent, unyielding earth. Whether it was a brutal reality or a powerful myth, the Blood Eagle came to define the very essence of Viking justice, a concept that was both holy and horrifying. It represented a society where the lines between law, religion, and violence were blurred into a single, terrifying code of conduct. It showed that for the Vikings, honor was worth more than life, and the loss of it demanded a price paid in unimaginable suffering. The ritual served as the ultimate deterrent, a visceral reminder that the social order was absolute and that the wrath of both the Jarl and the gods was a force to be feared above all else. The legacy of the Blood Eagle has endured for over 1,000 years, a haunting echo from a brutal past. It is remembered as perhaps the bloodiest and most creative form of execution in ancient Norse history, a name that still sends a shiver down the spine. Its story has been told and retold, a potent symbol of Viking ferocity and their complex relationship with life, death, and divinity. It remains a dark jewel in the crown of Norse legend, a testament to a time when a man's death could be a message carved in flesh and bone, a gruesome spectacle meant to touch the sky. This ritual of blood and bone has haunted history for centuries. But it wasn't the only form of justice that blurred the line between law and legend. Deep in the heart of ancient Rome, a punishment was devised for those who committed the ultimate sin. A death so poetic and cruel, it was said to make the gods themselves weep.